Should be interesting. I got to tell you, this Michigan game is fascinating to me because I think J.J. gives them a little something extra. Going to be fun to watch.
Quite a day, including 6 Big Ten teams scoring 50 or more points. First time that has happened in the AP poll era, which dates back to 1936. So we saw some offensive explosions, and Howard mentioned the Wolverines. They were one of the teams that exploded. We expected it, frankly, against a Hawaii team that we knew was undermanned coming in. But J.J. McCarthy making his first career start, and his first pass of the game goes for a touchdown. Roman Wilson, the Hawaiian, he touched the ball twice and he scored 2 TDs in the game. McCarthy to Cornelius Johnson, 54 yards there. JJ 11 of 12, 229 yards and 3 TDs. Hits Ronnie Bell for the score here. And then McCarthy feeling the pressure, so steps up in the pocket and hits Johnson there. 42-0. They win it 56-10. JJ after the game with Megan McHugh.
JJ, an hour rain delay before your first career start, yet you come out and just take over in the first half. How were you able to maintain your focus despite the circumstances?
It was just a little adversity. I mean, whatever happens, happens, and we're just going to roll with it. And we've been kind of waiting for something like that to happen all year, or all off season. So it was just something that we were prepared for, and we just naturally took advantage of it.
Well, you looked pretty prepared out there. You threw for a couple touchdowns, 229 yards. What was allowing you to have so much success throwing the ball through the air?
I mean, it all goes out to my teammates, my coaches. I mean, the scout team all week has done a great job, and it was just an amazing opportunity for them to get in and really show all the hard work that they've been putting in. And, yeah, it's just my receivers played outstanding, my offensive line played outstanding, and the running backs were great, so it just opened up everything.
Well, it opened up a lot for you. You put on a great performance in your first career start. How would you assess the body of work you just put out when it comes to the quarterback position starting moving forward with the season?
I mean, this was something I was kind of expecting of myself. I don't like to have expectations like that, but just playing Hawaii, like just getting it done and handling business, and now we're on to week 3. Yeah.
Appreciate it, JJ. Thank you so much. Congrats.
Thank you. Have a nice night.
You too.
He did get it done. I mean, again, 11 of 12. He ran the ball once, looked good doing that as well. Jerry, I know you felt all along this kind of setup for McCarthy to state his case and become the starter this week. Do you believe he's done that?
Yeah, he won the job today. And again, he didn't even really run the ball hardly at all, and he will do that when the time comes and when they need him. But he's such a great passer. He's such a great talent that he increases the efficiency of that offense several times over.
He makes them dynamic is what he does. I mean, because now all of a sudden you have to be concerned about another player carrying the football, just not throwing the football. So he was out there today, and it looked easy, right? It just felt like the team was playing at a different level when he was at the quarterback position. There's one play in particular when he gets pressure, rolls out to the left. A lot of guys really have to flip their hips all the way around to get any velocity on the ball. He didn't even flip his hips and was still able to get the velocity on the ball to make the completion. I think he's going to be fascinating and continue to watch him because he's going to get better. There's going to be some times where he's going to struggle a little bit because it's a new role for him. But he's going to continue to get better each and every week.
And them and Ohio State have the most talent in the conference, in my opinion. And they're going to have the 2 best quarterbacks. And those between the talent and the quarterbacks, that really separates them from everybody else. The only thing I don't like about the Michigan team, and I think it's probably the best team right now and the most complete team, the schedule. Colorado State, Hawaii, UConn, Maryland. I'm not sure there's any game in there that's really going to test them like Notre Dame tested Ohio State a week ago. So we're not going to know them against a really good opponent until halfway through the season.
Yeah, fair enough. But, again, they've looked really good. And
really
to your
good.
Point, look, I mean, Hawaii lost by a combined 85 points to Vanderbilt and Western Kentucky. Yep. So this isn't the best competition, but 10.7 yards per play for Michigan in that offense. JJ, one of the stars, as was Blake Corum, who's with Megan.
Blake, your offense rushes for 262 yards. How is your position group able to get the run game going early?
About preparation. You know, we listen to the coach. You know, we listen to, offensive coach, the offensive line coach. You know, we have one of the best O-lines in the nation. I think it's the best. But really just preparing and coming out here and just doing what we do.
How are you able to have so much success on the ground, 88 yards for you and a touchdown?
Offensive line, they make my job easy. I feel like they make all the running backs' job. Anyone that has the ball in their hand, they make it easy. So it was really just them. You know what I'm saying? They allowed me to get to the second level and let me do what I do.
As for Ohio State, they were taking on Arkansas State, pick it up in the first quarter. C.J. Stroud, Marvin Harrison Jr. This was the story of this game. C.J. Stroud throwing for 351 yards and 4 touchdowns, 3 of them to Harrison. Remember, he scored 3 touchdowns in the Rose Bowl last year. He joins Joey Galloway, the only 2 players in OSU program history with 2 career games of 3 or more receiving touchdowns. Harrison was just fabulous. 7 receptions, 184 yards as Ohio State rolls 45-12, the final in this one. Biggest takeaways for you, Howard, from watching the Buckeyes and that passing attack, which we didn't see a whole lot of in terms of the big plays last week against Notre Dame. We certainly saw it on Saturday.
To me, they took advantage of what they were going to be really good at. You talk about going against a secondary that was overmatched by this wide receiver group. They were going to have opportunities to get behind these corners and safeties, and they were able to take advantage of them. It's just one of those things that each and every week we watch them. We're going to see them win probably in a different fashion just because of who the opponent may be that they're playing against.
Last week, it was toughness in the run game on offense to win the game. They didn't have much explosion. Today, they had explosion. I mean, it makes them a complete team. Henderson had the ball 10 times for 10 carries today. I wish he had gotten it a little bit more. I think he's a really star and one of the better running backs in the country. But today was the day for explosion and not the running game.
Yeah, to your point, they had 1 play in the Notre Dame game longer than 30 yards. They had 8 plays in this game against Arkansas State of 30 yards or longer. So we saw that is the big play offense that we saw from Ohio State last year, and we saw it in this game as well. We did not see much offense from Iowa. We didn't see it last week, and they picked up right where they left off, and not in a good way, taking on Iowa State, the battle for the Cy Hawk Trophy. And this off a blocked punt. Iowa actually got off to a good start. They blocked the punt. They take it into the end zone. LaShawn Williams. Hawkeyes up 7-0, but they had just 150 yards of offense in this game. Hunter Deckers to Xavier Hutchinson, the 8-yard touchdown. That was the end of a 99-yard drive for the Cyclones. Iowa had 1 chance here to maybe send it into overtime, but Aaron Blom misses wide left, and Iowa State ends a 6-game skid against the Hawks. They win it 10-7. Reaction starting with Kirk Ferentz.
We're not going to win moving forward if we can't score more points than that. And we got a really good defense right now. But you can't count, you're not going to win a game 7 points, 10 points a game. Part of complimentary football is the other people helping out when one unit's not going well. But we're going to have to move the ball offensively. That's, we're not going to sit around waiting on special teams and defense to win every game for us. We can't do that. It's not realistic.
It all comes together. Sometimes it all comes unraveled. It's an old George Strait song, but I still have a lot of high hopes for our unit and for our team. This doesn't change any of our goals. Only thing we can't be now is undefeated, but the rest of our goals are still out in front of us. I truly do believe that there's good in front of this unit. We just got to go do it.
Well, they have not done it to this point. 7 points in each of their first 2 games. 316 total yards of offense through 2 games. I mean, it just flat out not going to get it done.
It's not Spencer Petrus's fault, but I think Kirk Ferentz will make a change at quarterback this week. I think Alex Padilla might give him a spark. There's no other position in football that you can change that could have that much of a change in your production on offense. So it's not Spencer's fault. They're struggling. Why not make a change at quarterback? And I got the impression the way Kirk was answering some of the quarterback questions in the press conference that he's going to revisit that tomorrow. He kept pushing it off. If he wasn't going to make a change, I think he would have said that today. Yeah. So I think we're going to see a change.
I wouldn't discount that at all. But I think the other thing that has to happen is they have to get better offensive line play. When you are struggling not to be able to run the football and you can't protect the quarterback, he's under constant duress. that's going to cause some problems. The time is not going to be there. People aren't going to have the confidence. So I think shoring up that offensive line, trying to put them in the best position to help them, which probably is running the football with a quarterback that may be able to be more athletic as well.
Yeah, getting the offensive line better is a lot harder than getting the quarterback better, if in fact Padilla gives them better quarterback play. It's just one person that makes that change.
And again, they're banged up at receiver. No Keegan Johnson, no Nico Reganey again for Iowa. But still, it is stuck in neutral. They are the first Big Ten team since 2001 to score.
Remember, I don't think it's neutral. I think it's park.
7 or fewer points in their first 2 games. Yeah, neutral might be generous, but no, it has not been good, and they're going to figure some things out. They got Nevada coming up next week. Michigan State, 14th ranked team in the nation, hosting Akron. Jalen Berger bowling his way into the end zone. He had 3 touchdowns on the day. That one made it 21-0 Spartans, and look out! Jeff Undercuffler just gets hammered there by Cal Halliday. MSU forced 4 turnovers, including that fumble. How about Noah Kim coming in and firing one to Trey Mosley for the touchdown? 52-0. Michigan State rolls. Audrey Dahlgren afterward with Jalen Berger.
Jalen, your coach Mel Tucker said that he believed you'd be the guy for them. What gives him so much confidence in you to make him feel that way?
I'd say the way I follow with my pads, finishing runs and stuff like that. But just the energy around the room brings it out of me, to be honest. I like how the 1-2 punch with me and Broussard. Yeah, just like that.
This also, too, a 100-yard, second 100-yard rushing game for yourself. What makes it so you're able to click so well in this offense?
Just the way they utilize the running backs in this offense, like splitting me out wide at the receiver. Almost fumbled on that screen pass, but just the way they utilize the running backs, like I said, I didn't even know I had 100 yards, to be honest. I thought I was under it, but good game for me.
Good game for him, good game for the entire offense, good game for the defense as well. Their largest shutout win since 1957. What stood out about Michigan State's victory?
Big jump from week 1 to week 2, especially the third quarter. It looked like they emphasized the run more. They made some adjustments at halftime. But every time we talk about Mel Tucker's team, we always talk about their goals, their expectations, and their improvement. And there was certainly a lot of improvement from week 1 to week 2.
Yeah, you think about the defensive side of the ball, holding your opponent to only 22 yards rushing. That's big time. So that's taking that next step. Understand the opponent, but it's about going out and being able to execute that, and then offensively running the ball the way they did. They made the plays they needed to. One part that was really good for them, I think Coach Tucker will be happy, just 4 penalties for 22 yards. Right. That's always been a little bit of an issue for them. Now he seemed to have that corrected.
8 straight home wins for them. That is their longest streak in 6 years. They head on the road next week to take on Washington. Penn State taking on the Bobcats of Ohio U. We mentioned this a time or 30 last year. Penn State's longest touchdown run last season was 7 yards. Noah Singleton going 10 times that. 70 yards for him. He had 10 carries for 179 yards on the game. Penn State up 14-0, and then it's Sean Clifford to Mitchell Tinsley. How about 17 different receivers catching passes for Penn State? That is the most for any Big Ten team this century. Drew Aller, we got a glimpse of him in that game against Purdue, hitting Omari Evans, 32 yards there. That was beautiful.
Tell a lot in a glimpse.
Yeah, there's been a couple good glimpses.
Yeah.
46-10. Penn State gets the win now, 20-0 in non-conference home games under James Franklin. Really encouraging, Howard, to see the run game get going.
Really is. And, they were explosive runs, and I think that was the biggest thing. I don't think this is still a team that's just going to be able to line up and force the ball down their opponent's throat whenever they want to. But if they can continue to get these explosive runs from the run game, that's going to be significant for them.
Yeah, if they can just do whatever they have to do in the run game to win the game, most likely by throwing the ball. You take last week, 98 yards against Purdue. Certainly not a lot of yards, but that's how many yards they needed to beat Purdue. Today, over 200 yards. They probably could have gotten more if they wanted to. So it's not always the number of yards for me. I think it's the number of runs that are called and the number of passes that are called. Don't get in a situation where it becomes a pass rush drill, because if you do that at Penn State, your offensive line won't hold up in protection.
And it's good to have a back that you can depend on, right? Yeah. And Singleton appears to be that guy. This ends a streak of 17 straight games without a 100-yard rusher for Penn State. They had one with Singleton. They go to Auburn next week. That should be a stern test for the Nittany Lions. Minnesota and Western Illinois. This was not a particularly stern test for the Gophers. Trey Potts weaving his way through. They went over 300 yards rushing and passing. Gophers on top 14-0. Mo Ibrahim continues his assault on the record books. 11th straight 100-yard rushing game, extending the longest streak in FBS. That is a school record. He went for 130 in this game, scored a couple plays later. How about this interception, Howard?
Oh, talking about going out and tracking the football. Does a great job of looking it in with his hands. It looks like a wide receiver. Shouldn't be on the defensive side of the ball.
Jordan Howden, that was a heck of a play. 62-10, their most points since 2006. It is hard to read too much into some of these games. I mean, Western Illinois has won 4 games in the last 3 years. However, Minnesota, based on what we've seen to this point against inferior opponents, looks to be a really good team.
Well, the one thing we can read into it is Kirk Shiraka said he wanted to be more explosive today, so that's the way he called the game. I think they're probably the most complete team in the West. I think they're playing better than any of the other teams in the West right now. They were balanced up today. They're pretty impressive on both sides of the ball. Both coordinators are doing great jobs.
I mean, the storyline has always been coming into this year is about what's going to happen on the offensive side of the football, but defense continues to impress each and every week, and they're going to need that defense to really make a run in the West.
This is the 14th straight opponent they have held to 27 points or fewer. That is the longest streak in 57 years for that Gophers defense. Wisconsin hosting Washington State. Picked this one up in the third quarter. Badgers up by 4. Cameron Ward buying some time. He finds Nakia Watson, the former Badger running back, puts on the spin move and finds the end zone. 31 yards, and the Cougars go on top 17-14. Wisconsin on the move. Graham Mertz to Clay Cundiff, who caught 2 touchdown passes, but he coughs that one up. Wazoo takes over, runs out the clock, and they win in Madison 17-14. Tough loss for Paul Chris and company.
We did some things today that make it hard to win, and I'm kicking myself for going forward on 4th and 3. I'd like to have that one back. You got to make it to where you're playing the opponent and not doing some things to hurt yourself. And this has got to be one that that burns and stings to where it drives you to get better.
He talked about the penalties. They had 11 for more than 100 yards. They turned the ball over 3 times. They gave up 6 tackles for loss. Just not the performance of a team that should expect to win a game. I mean, they were close. They had a chance there. Obviously, that fumble did them in. But really, throughout this game, sluggish from the Badgers.
It's possible they're going to be a different-looking team this year. They were 65% run last year. Right now, they're 50-50 run-pass. I'm not sure how good their defense is. I mean, they lost a lot of guys on defense, right, from last year's team, and we just said, well, Jim Leonard will take care of it. Well, maybe it's not that simple. So this might be a little bit different-looking team, and they may have to find a way to win a little differently than they have in the past few years.
Yeah, but if they're going to win, they can't turn the ball over, right? They can't. You go back to last year, they did some of the same things. They would have penalties and turn the ball over at some bad times. They're not in a position where they can afford to do that. They have to take care of the football to be able to win football games. This isn't that dominant style of offense that we were used to seeing when they can control the game at the line of scrimmage by running it.
And when they were turning it over, a lot of times the defense was saving them. I don't know that the defense is that good this year.
Might not be.
That the offense that can overcome the turnovers.
It was a team that turned the ball over more than anyone in the Big Ten a year ago, Wisconsin. This is just their second loss in their last 48 non-conference home games. Rutgers at home taking on Wagner, and this one was over
before it started.
Much right when it started. Evan Simon to Aaron Cruikshank. 3 of the first 4 passes for Rutgers went for touchdowns. They were thrown by 3 different quarterbacks. Gavin Wimsatt. How about this catch by Chris Long, Howard?
Outstanding one-hand catch and a nice throw by the quarterback real comfortable in the pocket.
585 yards of offense. Johnny Langan getting in the act.
Throw it up there, Johnny.
66-7, their most points since 1993. Here's Crystal Rich with Gavin Wimsatt.
Gavin, this is your first career start. All of your family is here. How did it feel finally to be able to orchestrate full drives this week?
It just felt great being able to be out there with my team. Just do what we normally do, so it felt good.
Feels good. Now, your whole family's here. I know everyone was really rooting for you. What was it like, your game in the air? Obviously, you had that long 41-yard touchdown pass.
That was super great. My first career touchdown, so sitting on my team celebrating with me on the sideline was great. It was amazing.
Now, we see a lot of dances that you do on TikTok. Is there going to be a celebration dance that we might be able to get a preview of right here?
That's in the works. It's in the works.
Congratulations, Gavin. Enjoy it. Back to the studio.
There's plenty to celebrate for Rutgers. Look, Wagner is not a good team. They've lost 21 straight games coming in. And again, you don't want to read too much into these victories. But, Howard, read something into it. What do you say?
Yeah, they need to figure out who the quarterback is going to be right now, right? And they're giving the guys an opportunity to go out and see who's going to do the best job of leading the team right now. That's why they're continuing to roll them through. So they have options there, and they have playmakers as well. This is a team, though, that wants to be physical at the point of attack.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on the quarterbacks. Think about Simon Wimsatt. They have played at Boston College, 2 young quarterbacks in a big upset, and then today in a much easier game. So the experience those 2 young quarterbacks are getting, I mean, it's hard to do that in scrimmages. It's hard to do that in the spring. Game reps for those 2 young quarterbacks are really valuable.
78th win for Greg Schiano as Rutgers head coach. He ties Frank Burns for first all-time. He can pass him next week against Temple. So congratulations to Greg Schiano there. A primetime game on the Big Ten Network. Indiana hosting the Vandals of Idaho. Indiana was actually down 10-0 in this game, but back they come. Connor Bazelak, A.J. Barner rumbling his way into the end zone, and the Hoosiers go on top 16-10. Then it's Bazelak to D.J. Matthews. Indiana up 23-10. They had 239 rushing yards in this game after just 32 in the opener. Josh Henderson takes it in there, and 35-22 the final. Tom Allen with Shane Sparks.
Coach Allen, I think a lot of us want to know what happened to the guys wearing the Indiana jerseys in the first half. Where'd you put those guys?
I don't know. I tell you what, very frustrating. It was not how we have to play. Very disappointed. Obviously, we got some things to fix with that, getting our guys ready to play right away. But I was proud of how they responded. We found a way to win. It was an ugly win for sure, but it was still a win. We just started executing, didn't turn the ball over, got off the field on 3rd downs defensively, and played the way we're supposed to play. So, but we saw them last week make a lot of plays against Washington State. We knew they had some talent. We knew they had a lot of good players, and Coach X doing a great job.
Tale of 2 halves for sure, all 35 points in the second half. I mean, cause for concern, no doubt, with the way they performed early, but the resilience impressive.
Yeah, no doubt. And this offense is really unique in this way. It's a spread offense, but with the spacing with the wide receivers, they're almost to the boundary. And Walt Bell, the offensive coordinator, that's given the offensive line a chance because they always control the numbers in the box. And that's what happened in the second half. They got the numbers right in the box, and they were able to block them one-on-one because they were displaced because they're wide receivers, and they got the running game going.
I think a big part of this, coming off an emotional win last week versus Illinois, and really being able to bounce back is a big part of this. So coming out and having to win a tough game, having to deal with some obstacles early in this game and still being able to bounce back really speaks volumes for this football team.
Can't be any better than 2-0 right now.
2-0.
I mean, it's a pretty good start.
2-0, and again, we've talked about how offensively challenged they've been. This is just the 3rd time in 17 games they've been over 400 yards. Mm-hmm. They ran the ball. Shivers really looked good in the second half, so maybe you can build off of what happened there. And again, you've equaled last year's win total already.
I think they're onto something with this. It is a unique offense. No one else is doing it quite like this.
2 games into the year, a team that won 2 last year has won 2 this year as well. They get Western Kentucky coming up next week. We got Illinois hosting Virginia. Pick it up in the first quarter. Illini down 3-0. Billy Kemp fielding a punt for the Cavaliers and fumbles it away. Matthew Bailey in the end zone for the touchdown. Big special teams play, and the Illini were off and running. Michael Marquez, team that beat him by 4 touchdowns last year. The Illini on top 14-3. Defense was phenomenal. 5 sacks, 2 interceptions, held the Cavaliers to 222 yards. Bailey, the interception there, as Illinois wins 24-3. How about the bounce back from the Illini after the disappointment, Howard, against Indiana? This was a dominant effort.
Yeah, opportunity to play Indiana, having to go on the road and losing that game, I think, kind of shook this Illinois team up, and having the opportunity to come back and bounce back against a team that embarrassed you last year was big for them. They were able to pass that test. But the way they're getting things done now on the defensive side, I mean, they are really playing well on that side of the ball.
Really complete team, right? Like you say, really good on defense. On offense, they're balanced, run and pass. Tommy DeVito, the transfer from Syracuse, seems to be the perfect quarterback for the system they're running. Really good team, and again, I think you can put the word complete around this team.
Chase Brown over 100 yards. Yep. Again, he joins Mikel LaShore, the only Illinois players this century to rush for over 100 yards in the first 3 games of a season. And, yeah, they've got to feel really good, particularly given what happened last week. I think we know this is an improving team here. The Illinois, they get a bye next week, then they face Chattanooga.
You didn't do that?
Here we go.
No, he didn't play. It's this century.
What? Seriously?
Are you listening?
Seriously?
Yeah.
He didn't get into a Big Ten school.
He played in the last.
Yeah.
Northwestern and Duke, the Wildcats were down 21-0, but back they come. Evan Hull for the touchdown. That was on a 4th and 3. Hull had 213 receiving yards.
Wow.
That is the most for a power conference running back this century. 21-16. Then it's Helinski to Donnie Navarro. 435 yards passing for Helinski. 28-23. It's 31-23. Hull. Oh! In the closing seconds, a touchdown and a 2-point conversion would have sent it to overtime, but he fumbles at the goal line. 4th straight loss for Northwestern to the Blue Devils, 31-23. Fellas, what do you make of that game? I mean, you cannot dig a hole like that, Howard, and expect to be able to come back. It was a game effort, no doubt, from Northwestern, but the first quarter was abysmal defensively.
Yeah, because they couldn't do anything. We looked at the strides they had made from their Week 0 game as far as defense is concerned. Then you turn to this game, and it was just a struggle the entire first half. And they finally figured it out and started to have some answers, but they had to expend so much energy to get back into the game. And then they have the costly fumble at the end, which was tough, particularly for Hull, who had a great game.
Yeah, it's not only the energy to get back in the game, it's the way the offensive coordinator has to call the game, right? Because you're trying to play catch-up. They have 76 yards rushing. So
they couldn't run the ball, though, even when they were in the game. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but the run game was completely shut down.
I know, but you don't feel like you have time to establish it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you're behind. I mean, there was no defense early in the game. I just think as a play caller, when you're that far behind, you're just thinking about catching up.
Yeah. I mean, you give up 232 yards in the first quarter. You can't expect to win a game. They give up 229 the rest of the way. But again, the Wildcats fall to 1-1. No such problems for Purdue. The Boilers were overwhelming against Indiana State. They forced the turnover there. Cam Allen recovers. The defense was great throughout, and Charlie Jones continues to put on a clinic, Howard.
Really does. One-on-one, does a great job with the stiff arm and then finding the end zone.
9 receptions for 133 yards and 3 touchdowns, all in the first half. He has 21 catches. That's the same number that he had all of last year, and then he's got that deal that he's doing
whatever that
the
deal
sideline
is.
there.
What is that? What is that deal?
I don't know. Let's look at the auto owners insurance game leaders, shall we? Aiden O'Connell, I'd say that's an efficient game. 17 of 19, 4 touchdowns. You see the numbers for Jones, and then Allen leading the way for that defense, which pitched the shutout, first home shutout since 2011. After the devastation against Penn State, this is an important game to get well for Purdue.
It is, but you don't learn much. In fact, the only thing I learned was that it is possible for Purdue to run more than the pass. They ran it 45 times and threw it 30 times. Other than that, I didn't learn much about the team.
I think it shows you that just how explosive this offense can be when they're in rhythm. when the offensive line is given the quarterback opportunities and time in the pocket that they can make the plays. And defensively, they're continuing to get better on that side of the ball. They corrected some of the mistakes from a week ago as far as tackling was concerned. It was more sure tackling today than we saw a week ago.
You certainly have evidence of that, 56-0. There's no doubt you got support on all of that.
Yeah, whatever you say is good, right? 56-0 is your evidence. The evidence for Nebraska is starting to get overwhelming in a really negative direction. They were taking on Georgia Southern, picking up in the third quarter. Kyle Van Treese to Amari Jones. Georgia Southern up 35-28. Van Treese threw for 409 yards. Casey Thompson, the rushing touchdown there, puts Nebraska on top 42-38. But back comes Van Treese, diving for the end zone. 5th rushing touchdown of the game for the Eagles. Now 1 second left. Nebraska, one last chance. They bring in Timmy Bleekrode, but his field goal attempt goes wide left, and Georgia Southern wins it 45-42. Scott Frost after the game.
Certainly didn't expect that tonight. I thought we would perform a lot better than that. I felt really good about our defense going into the season, felt good about our offense. I knew it would take a while for our offense to start clicking. I thought they did pretty well tonight. Thought the defense made a lot of progress last week. That was a major setback. But we gave up too many points. I think in the second game, offense struggled in the first half, and the defense held us in it. So we got to play more complete games, and that wasn't even close.
It certainly was not. They gave up 642 yards to Georgia Southern. This is the 215th time all time that Nebraska scored 35 or more points at Memorial Stadium. They had been 214-0 in those games. First time they've ever lost at home when scoring 35 or more points. The defense seemed to be the most solid part of this team, and it has just evaporated.
You could say that since Scott has been there, the one thing that's gotten better every single year was the defense. Yeah. And now the offense has come along. I mean, I think it's fair to say the offense is better. And then what's happened to the defense? And when you look at their personnel, I would say that this is as talented as any of their other recent defenses that were playing better. It's puzzling.
We saw Nebraska go down and score. There was about 4 minutes left in the game, and there was a collective look around the green room. Too much time left on the clock.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? And because that's just how we feel when we watch this team, and it ultimately played out. Even though they had a run to get back in and had an opportunity at the field goal at the end, it just feels like when the team is when their backs are against the wall, they just don't have a way to get over that issue.
I feel contractually obligated as a sportscaster covering Nebraska to mention they are now 5-22 in one-score games under Scott Frost. We have to mention the one-score game because it's simply what we do.